Good morning and welcome to my webinar, Moving Your Application to the Microsoft Store. My name is Olaf Monjan and I'm an Embarcadero MVP, the coordinator of the German region, German-speaking region, and the owner and CEO of Developer Experts. What we offer is consulting, training, and project support. So if you have any questions regarding this webinar or need a quotation or just some ideas about your Delphi project, then just drop me an email at olaf@monjan.net. All right, the Microsoft Store. The Microsoft Store is an infrastructure of Microsoft's that is not just for applications that we are going to talk about today. It's an infrastructure store for hardware like mice and keyboards and Surface tablets, games, and it also has the physical stores at that website as well. So it's not just the application store; it's Microsoft Store for everything. Of course, we are interested in how to get an app into the Microsoft Store so that your users can actually just download your app from the store. For that, there is an app, of course. In Windows, it's called the Microsoft Store app. You basically need Windows 10 to get around with the Microsoft Store. It's actually for Windows applications, Windows extensions and plugins. Even language packs are delivered through the store now. So Microsoft basically takes the Windows part of the Microsoft Store to deliver all the applications and stuff that you need for Windows. And of course, it's for third-party apps. That's what we are going to do today. So even though there is an app, and of course you can use the browsing features and the search field that in the app is offered, there is of course the online version, the website that that the URL you have just seen previously. There is also a search button on the website, so you can actually even go to the website and find your applications there. It's not quite obvious that there is a section for apps, but that's the way it would work. And we will see that a little bit later, how you can actually find your applications there. All right, so from a developer's perspective, the App Store, of course, requires a developer account. So that developer account, there are actually two types of developer accounts. One is for individuals, the other is for companies. So individuals is just $19 and the company account is $99, and that is not a subscription fee or something. It's a single payment that you have to pay to Microsoft, and that's it. So you don't have to renew every year like you have to with Apple's App Store, for example, or the developer accounts of Apple's. So the difference between those two is, of course, the individual account is for a single developer, freelancer, hobbyist, student, whatever. And the company account has some advantages if you have a business with not just your own working on it, and you have coworkers and apps that are that need certain features have actually the requirement that they are published through a company account. One example that I found in the documentation is if your application in some way requires financial information from the user or deals with some sort of financial information of the users, then you are required to publish that application through a company account. Important when you register for a company account, especially for a company account, plan ahead, because the registration and the verification takes quite some time, or may take quite some time. In the docs, they even say it could take a couple of weeks. I registered for a company account, and it took me basically like 4 days to get started. So that's not too bad, considering that I started on a weekend. Companies are verified by different means. In Europe, they check your VAT ID, which is basically a sales tax ID that we have in Europe. And they look at your company website, and in the docs they say they might even call your office to see if that's the real person, the real company that is registering here. They didn't call me. I just entered my information, my VAT ID, and everything. So that worked pretty much fine. Took half of the time from when I started or when I started my registration up until to the point to get my first app submitted and accepted in the store. That was basically 4 days, and half of the time it took Microsoft to verify my account, my company. So just as a thumb of a rule, just maybe plan ahead and plan for a week at least. Important, if you are actually a team of developers and all those, or you have many users that or developers that should somehow interact with the Microsoft Store, the company account basically supports the Azure Active Directory feature, which means if you sign up through your Azure accounts, then you can actually use these users and assign roles and access rights to your developer account through that Active Directory feature, which is probably quite a good thing if you are a large corporation with many developers or persons that are involved in some way with application development. All right. Okay, so once you got registered, there is a dashboard. They call that the Partner Center, and that dashboard has account settings and everything. There you see your registration info, contact info, and everything. So you have to select a publisher display name, for example. In our case, it's Developer Experts. So that's the name which will be listed on the application store beneath your applications as the name of the publisher. And one important thing in here is the Windows Publisher ID. So that is a thing that we will need later on when I will be talking about provisioning profiles that we need for submitting an application. So remember, if we are talking about that, it's on that screen in the account settings of the Partner Center. Okay, so from Delphi to Microsoft Store, there are a couple of steps and requirements. First thing is, I recommend using the latest Delphi version. It might work with older versions. Obviously, I tried everything with 10.3.2 at this time, so it's Delphi Rio. Technically, everything I'm explaining here should technically work with C++ Builder as well, of course. So I only tried Delphi, and I only tried the latest release, and because things with App Store publishing may change from one day to the other, it's likely that older Delphi versions will cease to work at a certain point of time because something changed and they can't fix that in older Delphi versions. So always take the newest one. Everything I tried was a Firemonkey application. Technically, VCL applications are fine as well. I didn't try that. It should work. So the demo application that we are using for the webinar will be a Firemonkey application that worked, that got accepted in the store. So if you're doing that, you will know it should work technically. All right. There is a short help page in the doc wiki. So go to that URL, and there is a summary of the steps required. So there are even some references to different sites for Microsoft documentation and stuff like that. So this should be your starting point if you can't figure it out yourself. All right, step 1, of course, develop your app. Of course, you need to develop an app, and there is nothing really special that in your application needs to be taken care of. You can just go ahead and develop your Windows application. So in my case, it's going to be a little tool that I developed. I created just one single form. I didn't actually think about, oh, this is going to be a store application. So it's just a regular Windows application. You probably shouldn't do things that are in some way, well, harmful. You probably won't get your application certified if you scan the whole hard drive and stuff like that. So be careful if you're doing things that might be interpreted as something that looks more like a malware or something that is harmful. So just remember, keep in mind your app is going to be inspected, so it shouldn't look too weird to the team who is inspecting the apps. All right, so next step is, of course, create the developer account. I will just go with you to that page, and we will have a look there. And then the third step is, creating a new application in the Partner Center. So for every application that you are going to submit to Microsoft, you will have an online representation of that app in the App Center. Then we need, after we edited all the information, like description, everything, title, what will you need, then we need to apply some sort of provisioning information to our own app. So that's an important step. And the next thing before you can actually compile to a specific package format that we will need, you need to make sure that you have the Windows 10 SDK installed. In theory, the Delphi installer, that's what I heard, or what the product management said, it should actually be on your hard drive already, but in my case, I didn't have it. So it could be something that I checked the wrong option when I installed Delphi or something. Just in case, just take that URL that you see here and download the Windows 10 SDK manually. It's seamlessly just install it, and it will all be good, and Delphi recognizes that. That worked easily for me. And then when you got the SDK installed, you will be able to build your app in a special target configuration, and you should always release in release mode. Of course, you shouldn't really release to the App Store in debug mode with all the debug informations in it. That's probably not a good idea. So go to release mode and then select target configuration application store. If you do that, the result of your build process is no longer just a simple exe file. It's actually a Appx file, and that is basically just a zip file containing the executable and some additional files that are needed to so that Microsoft recognizes this as a Microsoft Store application. When you submitted your application, well, then the next step is to wait. It may take those 2 or 3 days for the certification. That's how they call it. It's a certification process, and once the certification passes, the app will actually be available within an hour or so in the App Store. When your application is certified or being certified, they will look for certain things that you do in the application. There is one thing, I'm gonna show you that in a bit. due to the nature of Delphi applications, we are compiling natively. We are not using .NET or something. It's a native application that we compile. We can technically do harmful things. And this requires our applications, our native applications, to be marked as run in full trust mode. This is some information that needs to be applied to the package. I will show you that where that is be found. And Microsoft will ask you for or why you are requiring full trust mode with your application, because that gives you more access rights to the user system. And when Microsoft asks why you are doing that, I basically just put in as an answer that the application was built using Empacadero's Red Studio. So Red Studio is somewhere in Microsoft's docs, online docs that you can find, and they know about Delphi and Red Studio. So this is probably what triggers them to accept run full trust mode if there is not another specific reason for doing so. All right, so next thing, Delphi. All right, so this is Delphi View 10.3.2, and here is my demo application. I called it the Hash Expert. So it's an application to calculate hash values for any file that you drop on it. We won't look into the source. There is nothing really special, not using any third-party components, just everything is just out of the box in Delphi. It's a Firemonkey application. As you can easily spot, there is the title bar is missing, so that's easy to tell. Let's see how that one works. It's just that you get an idea of what we got here. So it's really a simple application. I created it as a fixed window, so there is no way to actually resize the window and stuff like that. So let's get a file somewhere. Let's see what we got here. Just something, drop on it, and you see there is the SHA512 hash value calculated. You can select and copy that. You can click on that thing here, or right click and copy that. All right, so the that's basically the application. Of course, you can change your algorithm. So whatever algorithm that you click on, it recalculates everything, and here we go. So that is the native application just running on my Windows system here, right through the Delphi debugger. Okay, let's go to the Microsoft Store and let's look for Hash Expert. And here we go. So this is my application. I just got that one certified, and well, it says launch. So I already downloaded and installed it. So when you just search for that application, it will just show install or download here. So just let's launch the application. Here it is. Looks very familiar. You probably see that I changed a few things here. The icon is different, and I created a slightly larger edit box down here, so that the relatively long SHA512 values can properly be displayed. And you will notice that the application in the store, when you change the algorithm, it doesn't really recalculate yet. So the version that I have on my computer here in Delphi is newer. So I will show you how to upload a newer version of the application during the webinar now. All right, so let's step back for a minute. Let's go into a web browser and let's see how the Partner Center works. So this is the regular dashboard with an overview of all your applications that you have in the Microsoft Store. So when you first register and when you first start the dashboard, you will actually see this page here. For some reason it's in German. Let me put that over into English. Let's go here. All right, so this is basically the starting page that you will see once you registered and when you get the first time into the Partner Center. All right, so you would just start a new application here and fill out all the values that are presented to you. So the first thing is entering an app name. Just make something here just that we can see the process really quick. So just let's call this Delphi demo. I will not submit this one, of course. It's just to go through the steps, which should be technically not taking too long. All right, and here we go. So this is of course not all you need to do. You need to start your submission. Okay, so this takes you to a list of steps that you have to go through. So submission 1 means this is the first drop of your program, and you need to set all the properties, pricing, and everything. So we won't finish that one here. We just go to the overview and go through everything that I already have with my existing application HashExpert. So you might spot that the icon is not really perfect yet. So there are a couple of things that might be improved here. So, but one thing that I would like to show you, because it might be not so obvious where to find that, is the developer settings under settings over here. And in here, you basically have the settings that I was talking about in the very beginning. So important is this value. This will be assigned to you. It's nothing that you actually enter through the registration process like all the other values that you see here. It's something that Microsoft assigns to you, and that's basically part of the certification process when you sign your own application, or when Microsoft signs your application. It's a process that is basically prepared for you, and you don't need to acquire a certificate like you would have to do for Apple development, where you have to go into the developer center and download certificates and stuff like that. That's something you don't need with the Microsoft Store. That's something they handle for you. All right, so these are the account settings, and now we go back to the overview section where we see our application. So this is probably something I need to delete later on, and here we go to the HashExpert, and we will just go through some of the steps that you need to, well, have a look at. And my first submission has been accepted and everything. So here, pricing and availability. The first step that you have to look into, pricing and availability. Of course, you might already have seen that in the App Store. The application HashExpert is free, so the pricing tier is something that you can select here if Microsoft lets us. The pricing tier can be free, or any of the tiers that they offer for paid applications. I didn't set up financial information with my account yet, so technically I couldn't. Okay, we are having trouble here. It's just Microsoft. Just let's go back and try to get to the application and see what's going on here. So pricing and availability. At this time, this should be read-only. That's something we can't change for this existing submission. We would to change the pricing. That's something that you have to. There you have to do another submission. All right, so here we are. Pricing, markets. Markets is where your application is being offered. I just chose everything, so that's fine. visibility, you can have actually private audience. That means the product is hidden in the store and your customers basically need a code to get access to the application. That's great for business to business applications. And discoverability, pretty much the same thing. Your product is available and discoverable. And you see you can choose to not making that product available and discoverable in the store. So you can provide direct links, stuff like that. And here the next thing is to schedule when the application basically is being released. So as soon as possible is usually what you would select. That means as soon as your application gets certified, you can basically put it into production or into release. So here you can technically prepare submissions that go online the next month or so. So when you do quarterly releases, you can prepare everything that it's released on the first day of the next quarter and stuff like that. Okay, and of course you can stop acquisition. That means you can tell the system if your application has limited lifetime, such as applications that have, for example, the purpose of displaying information for seasonal information or stuff like that. Applications that do Christmas stuff or so, you probably don't want them to be published after Christmas or stop showing them after Christmas. Okay, pricing. Here is the pricing level. Unfortunately, we don't see, we can't select a different tier here, but there are quite a few different tiers that you can select from €1 or $1 and up to whatever you need. You can actually offer trials and different sale pricing. So if you have a special offer or something, you can do that. And you can license your application to specific organizations, so that this is a specific option if you sell volume licensed software to corporate customers or educational customers. That could be done here. And we probably have a pricing table over here, so that you get an idea of what pricing tiers we had. For some reason, Microsoft is pretty slow this today. So don't know why that is happening. Okay, here we go. And the pricing table should probably pop up in a bit. Here you see the pricing tiers. So from $1 over 10, 15, up to $1,000. That's something you can charge for your application. All right, so if you have an application that you sell to a specific audience, like a corporate business to business thing, you probably don't go through the pricing tiers in here. So if you consider the store, you would use this licensing thing that we have seen previously and handle payments differently. So these are the options for those traditional download and pay apps that we have here. Okay, so let's go back here. We go back here and go to the hash expert once more and back into the submission. So easier than properties. That's basically telling us about the purpose of the application. So I chose utilities and tools and file managers. It's not technically a file manager, but I couldn't find a secondary category for the app here. So, and then we have a place where to put in privacy policy URLs, the website, and support, contact, email. And here, the display mode, don't check the PC one. It might be tempting to check the PC one, but that's something for specific 2D immersive applications. That's something special that we are not using here. So it's for It's not a regular desktop application. It's for big screen things, stuff like that. Okay, and here are a couple of options that we might check. Okay, we don't allow the user to make purchases. It has been tested to meet accessibility guidelines. No, we don't do that. Unfortunately, the customers can install the product to alternate drives or movable storage. Yeah, of course, if they want, they can do so. And Windows can include the product's data in automatic backups to OneDrive. Of course, no problem with that. Customers can use Windows 10 features to record and broadcast clips of this game. Well, it's not a game, so we don't check that one here. We are not dealing with Kinect devices. We are not supporting Continuum, whatever that is. And we don't support pen and ink input. Well, makes no sense when you're dropping files. And we are not talking to Cortana with that application. So nothing here. Then system requirements. Well, we don't need a touch screen. We probably need a keyboard to be able to somehow get the values out of the application. We require that, and we recommend that. We recommend a mouse and require a mouse, actually, because when we want to use drag and drop, it's probably hard without a mouse. So all the other stuff is not required or recommended for the application. And memory, well, recommended. You should probably have at least 1 GB. Well, on the other hand, it's a tiny application, so it should probably run with even less. If Windows runs on even less, whatever. So we don't need specific video, we don't need a specific processor, so we can actually leave all that out. If you have an application where you know you need that amount of memory, put that in. If your application runs only good if you have an AMD 16 core, whatever processor, you can probably put all this information in here, and next step would be to save that. All right, so that's the so-called properties of the application. Age rating, of course, we can check some options here. So we have no specific stuff in the application that requires any restrictions here. So it's all ages and everything. They basically navigate you through a questionnaire where they ask for if your application contains violence, if it contains pornographic stuff. Well, actually, somewhere in the doc says you must not publish applications with pornographics in it, so don't do that. And somewhere it says, well, if there is something with guns, if you are somehow promoting the use of guns, you shouldn't publish that. So games that are using guns in some way are still good, as I understand that. So this is it. And then the next thing is the packages thing. So the packages, let's have a look after we look at the store listings options down here. So this submission options publish as soon as possible. Of course, it should do so. In theory, the docs say you get a notification once your application got certified. Well, I didn't receive that. I didn't even receive a notification after my registration for an account was successfully accepted. So for whatever reason, just look in here, and it doesn't really submit the already certified application to the store. You have to press a button in here, so you better look manually. So store listings, that's actually interesting. It usually starts with an entry in here, English, which means this application is in English and has all the store listings in English. So when we click here, after another minute or so, we see all the description fields. So the product name is just #expert. That's something that you basically set at the very beginning. As far as I understand that, you can actually have multiple names for your application, whatever sense that makes. And then a description. This version is the very first one, so we don't have any specifics in here. Supports any file. This is the features section, MD5, and the other algorithms. And here we got a screenshot. At least one is required, so that's the screenshot here. And I marked it to be a desktop application, so it's not gonna run on mobile, Xbox, holographic in that goggle thing. So it's a desktop screenshot. All right, and store logos. I didn't put any store logos, additional ones in here, because it appears that's for the Xbox, especially specifically. I didn't try what happens if I created a poster art here. Maybe it's even shown on the Windows side of the things. And there are even more images that you can upload, and some supplemental fields. These are optional, so you can actually put in some more info even in here. And this one is probably important as well. So you have support information in here. So it's an email address. And some of the search terms, you can actually have 7 search terms. So this is how to find the application. So I just put in that here, copyright marks and everything. So that's pretty much it. So after you completed that, you can actually go to the packages section. You could even do that before, but I mean, now we are actually at the stage where we can actually upload something. So what it requires here, and what we are able to produce in Delphi, is the Appx package format. So how do we get a Delphi application to produce an Appx file? All right. So, and once you upload it here, you can actually see what this is. So version number is 0. That's something weird. They seem to require that you don't put in a version number here. That's something you have to set externally with the next submission, as far as I learned that up to now. Okay, so let's go to Delphi. So when I just ran the application previously, I did that as you would do with any regular Windows application. So it was set to debug, and it was set to produce a Win32 executable. So to produce something for the App Store, you should set it to release, and then there is a target platform that needs to be set. This is Win32. You can actually produce Win64-bit applications, but as far as I understood the documentation, there is no way, as far as I understand, that you can package a 64-bit and a 32-bit application into just one single package in some way. That's not supposed to be done. So if you want to have a 64-bit version for your application, you would upload a different application, basically. That's something that Microsoft does itself that way. I've seen, for example, Microsoft Office 64-bit versions of the Microsoft Office packages. So it's probably the way they want to do that. Remember, what we are doing here is a normal, that's the default here, a normal Windows 32 or 64-bit application. It's a native application. We are just targeting the Win32 API as with any other Windows application that we would produce with Delphi. So we are not using the UWP API, the newer universal Windows platform API that Microsoft came up with. So we are just using native applications here. So it's nothing Microsoft fancy stuff that we do here. It's just regular native applications. So, and to produce that Appx file, you have to set the configuration to application store. Okay. The next thing you want to look at is tools, options. And there we need to check if the Windows SDK is already set. Let me see, where's the dialog? Here we go. Okay, so we have to go to Deployment, SDK Manager. And the SDK Manager here should have valid information about the Win10 SDK. In my case, it wasn't in place, and in the slides at the beginning of the video you see the download URL to get this installed if you don't have it. So if you don't have that here, well, you probably don't have that. You just select Add, select the platform, Windows 32, and then if everything worked fine with the installing the SDK, Delphi offers this as an option here, and then you could just select that. So I did that previously and it worked out of the box then. Okay, so the next thing is to actually do something is to go to the options page of the actual project. And there you need to set, of course, a few things. The most important thing is version info. Of course, you probably want to set a few things in here. Make sure that you are in the right target here, in the target configuration. So we are dealing with release and Win32. That's the important thing here to keep in mind. If you do that in debug in Win32, it won't help. So do that in the release configuration of Win32, which is what we are going to submit to Microsoft. Okay, so the version itself is set to 0. They do that externally in some way. Set at least your company name, the file description to module name, that's perfectly fine, and set the reverse domain identifier. So make that your company's domain and put in the module name, and that's pretty much it. That works. And make sure that the selected language matches the language that you are selecting under the properties setting in the partner center for your submission. Okay, next thing which is important here is the provisioning. The provisioning is basically where we set some information about how our application is signed and certified. So default is make sure you're in release Win32 again, build type, application store. Okay, we are not doing ad hoc, we are doing store, and then make sure that you have exactly this information in here. So this is basically the short name of your registered company. So this is important. You need to name the package with your company name dot product name. So that's important. And then the display name, you can select whatever you like. And this is the publisher ID. That's basically part of the SSL certificate that your application gets signed with. That's the piece in your account settings that I pointed out previously. So here you put that GUID whatever number, and you don't put in your company name here. In the Embarcadero docs in DocWiki, for some reason they state that you put in your company name here. That's not correct. And the publisher display name, which should match the display name of what you have set in your account at Microsoft. Okay, if you've done so, we can actually go over and do a slow and careful build process. So I just built the application. Okay, let's have a look here what we got. So let's do it a little bit different here. Just let's go in show in Explorer. So and you noticed I tried the whole thing in Mac OS as well. That works. And here we are. Just for the purpose of showing you what's going on, I'm deleting that directory again and do another full build. Okay, So release. So you see the exe, the executable, and the DCU file. So nothing special right now. You probably can't even start that application because it's a regular executable which just runs on Windows. So that's fine. Okay, so the next thing that you need to do to get the Appx package is actually, after a full build, you go to project and then you go to deploy. When you are working with iOS applications, for example, that would connect to the PA server, connect to your Mac, and do all the weird things that they need to do. Here, it basically calls into the Windows SDK tools that we just made sure that the SDK is installed, and it creates some more stuff, which is here. So this basically creates a new manifest file. It publishes the executable once more, and in the bin directory there is the Appx file, and that's the only file that we need, right? So this is a zip file, so we can actually unzip the whole thing if you are interested in that. Extract to #expert, and you see there is everything in it. The assets, which is the icon or the logo for the store, a manifest, and the binary itself. So this Appx is what we need. Okay, so the Appx is then something that you would drop into the packages section, and then they pre-process it, and they and you can click a button to actually get the whole thing certified. So this is the process to basically create a Appx file. And once they successfully pre-process the file, successfully certified, remember it could take a day, 2 or 3 or more, then you can push the button to release your, or to submit the final executable to the store. In my case, they just took the application as I built it. I didn't took too much attention to visual layouts and stuff. I mean, you have seen the application. I didn't do any weird things here. It's just a working application, and that's pretty much what they are looking for. So in general, this is the way how to get a application onto the App Store. And again, you can just go here. Once it got submitted, then you would see the application in here. So #expert, oops, experts, that's not correct. Let's see. No, it's not too smart. Here we go. Let's see what we got. And you see this is the icon. It's suitable for everyone. Use case 0. That's the age restriction section that we had. It has a screenshot that we added. Here's some of the additional information. This is probably linking to our website. No, it's actually the site of our applications in the store. And there is certainly somewhere the privacy policy that links to our website. Then see here, this is the legal section, and there's a privacy section somewhere. And interesting is photosensitive seizure warning, so don't stare at the application for too long. You could actually lose your sight. Okay, so this is basically what I have for today. So I managed you or navigated you around all the basic steps that you need to take to get an application onto the App Store. Well, if you have more questions, just drop me an email at the very beginning. It's written. It's olaf@monian.net. And otherwise, thank you for listening, and see you later again.